All right, here we are, another episode, and I had the great opportunity to be introduced to a company called BioActive Solutions. I am meeting with the leaders of this company, and they're going to tell me all about their Trokie product, which is a CBD product. I have no idea what it is. I asked my audience. Everybody wanted to learn about it. I see it all over the news. I see the farm bill is passed, so it's a new coming wave, I hear. So through my networking, I've had the opportunity to sit down with these folks in Reno, and we're going to learn all about it. Today, I'm meeting with one of the officers of the company, Doria. Hi, Doria.
Hello. Nice to be here, Doyle.
Well, thanks for being here. You're going to tell me everything CBD. You're going to tell me about the market. You're going to tell me the science. You're going to tell me all about it, right?
It is exciting times, particularly with the farm bill just passing, and it's going to explode the CBD market. So it's important. I want to take this time to start educating the individuals out there so that they can make the right choices when they're picking CBD products.
And that's a great jumping off point. I start Googling and searching and hitting shop, and it's $3 for a jar to $300 for a jar, and I get totally confused. Some say from isolate. I'm reading that you don't want CBD from China. You want it locally. I don't know. What is CBD? Tell me what CBD is to start with.
That's great. Let's start with what CBD is. CBD is the popular name that it's referring to a cannabinoid, which is called cannabidiol. So cannabidiol, which is CBD, is one of 80 plus cannabinoids found in the cannabis or hemp plant.
Okay.
So CBD is the same whether it's in the cannabis plant or the hemp plant. It's the same molecular structure. And a lot of times you'll hear people say, oh, you need to get CBD from cannabis. It works better. And I want to discuss a little bit of that today.
Yeah, please, because I didn't know there was a real difference between hemp and cannabis.
Right. So there is no difference whether it comes from the cannabis plant or the hemp plant.
Okay.
CBD is the same. Just like vitamin C is the same whether it comes from an orange or a kiwi. There's no difference. The difference is in the whole makeup of the plant and what it's coming from. So in the cannabis plant, there are more cannabinoids found than in the hemp plant. So you can get a more wide spectrum of cannabinoids when you do take it from the cannabis plant as opposed to the hemp plant.
Okay.
But when we're talking about CBD specifically, it doesn't matter which plant it comes from. When you're using the compound CBD and you use it in an isolate form, you're getting just that product. I like to use a comparison of vitamin C because we're all familiar with that.
Okay.
So when you eat the whole orange, you're getting more compounds when you eat the whole orange, not just the vitamin C.
Okay.
As opposed to if you just take ascorbic acid, you're getting that concentrated
And ascorbic acid is vitamin C.
And ascorbic acid is vitamin C.
Okay.
So when you're sick, you don't want to eat 100 oranges.
Right.
You need to get that isolated, the concentrated form of vitamin C. So you're going to be taking 1,000 to 30,000 units of that vitamin C. So when someone has an ailment, you could take the hemp plant and be eating it in a whole form, but it's sometimes more advantageous just to get that CBD form because of its medicinal properties and what it can help with.
So the Trokie website, and you mentioned medicinal properties of CBD. What are those properties? How does it I mean, should I take a CBD Trokie, or should I take a Tylenol? Should I take an ibuprofen? If I have a headache, help me out with that.
Good question. So there is research happening more profoundly abroad overseas. So in Italy, Israel, the UK, they've been doing extensive research on cannabidiol, the CBD molecular compound, and they're finding that it's anti-spasmodic, it's anti-tumors for fighting cancer, it's anti-inflammatory, pain relieving, it's also neuroprotective. So
what does that mean?
So neuroprotective. So our nervous system, particularly after chemotherapy, the myelin sheath around the nerves can start to be degenerated.
Okay.
And the most common symptom of any kind of neurodegeneration is neuropathy, which is a common symptom after chemotherapy because it's destroying that myelin sheath.
Okay.
And other ones related in the brain are Parkinson's and MS, dementia, Alzheimer's. So when you're taking CBD, you're essentially helping to protect the nervous system, which is key for the older population that's going into that potential disease state.
Okay. All right. CBD is legal in all 50 states. It's legal everywhere, as opposed to the THC side. Can you explain CBD versus THC maybe?
That's a great question. So the Farm Bill Act of 2014 made CBD legal as a crop in states that wanted to regulate that as a crop. So it didn't happen in all 50 states. With the current Farm Bill Act of 2018, which just passed, it is now deregulated, is no longer a scheduled substance, and it will be just like growing corn. It will be another agriculture crop.
Okay.
So you asked about the difference between CBD and THC.
Yeah.
That's an important question because the stereotype people have with cannabis, and not so much hemp, but hemp's been tied in with cannabis,
Right.
is the THC effect of people having that psychoactive state.
Okay.
And so they've been scared to try it because of the media and the information we've been taught over the years about that psychoactive change and people becoming high and crazy. It's really been a myth that we've been misinformed all this time to scare us away from this drug that's really a medicinal healing herb.
So the THC is decided to get you high, and the CBD is, I think I read somewhere that CBD is actually an antidote, if you will, to the THC.
It is. It's an amazing, this plant. It has built in it a cannabinoid, CBD, that can counteract the THC. So when I've been working in this field for 3+ years, I've worked on the medical side with generally the more elder population, and they want to get the benefits and they don't want to feel high. So when we start to introduce a little bit of THC at night, because it does help with sleep and it can help with appetite stimulation and it can help a little bit with pain for some people as well, I give them also the Band-Aid, which is CBD, in case they accidentally take too much when they start to increase their dose. That way they can go home feeling comfortable that they have the antidote if needed when taking the THC. And I have personal experience from that happening. I mean, even as someone that's an expert in the field, one time I had taken a little too much and I took CBD, the Trokie CBD, and within 15 to 30 minutes, I came back to feeling normal.
Kind of leveled you out.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, and I had that personal experience. I was primary caregiver for my father when he was ill, and I mentioned CBDs to him, and he was 90 and came from that
era of what we were taught,
era
right?
of what he was taught, and that was crazy. You know, 3 martinis every afternoon is okay.
That's right.
But
or that opioid heroin dose your MD gave you.
yeah, exactly. And they were always pushing that at him for pain, and he couldn't tolerate that. That he couldn't remember where he was and things of that nature. So, but there was a great resistance from him that, that's dope. I don't want dope.
Right.
So I think the education piece is key these days. And from you and I talking, just from what I read, I've got so much misinformation in sales talk. What I liked about your website when I went to it, by the way, folks, go to Trokie.com. That's TROKIE.com and read up. You mentioned medicinal benefits, but you don't necessarily make full claims. Can you explain your marketing approach and how you're putting Trokie? How can you say Trokie helps you, I guess?
Well, we can look at the research that's happening and base it on that, but we can't make claims. It's not FDA regulated or approved at this point. There's one pharmaceutical company that is taking that route, and they have the means and the money to back that.
Okay.
So it doesn't, just like supplements aren't FDA approved, and they aren't regulated. So you can go into a generic store and purchase something off the shelf, but you don't know what you're getting, just like a CBD product. So it's better to get your supplements from a doctor that has a reputable company that they know what's in the product. It's third-party laboratory tested. The same is true for CBD products. So when you're shopping online, it's important to reach out to that company and email them and say, I would like your laboratory results so I know what you're saying is in it is actually in it.
Now, I've got a little experience in that, and I'll go into it in a second, but I think it's important to mention that Trokie, you guys produce your own product in your own facilities, correct?
That's correct.
And the reason I mention that is I had a little experience in the supplement world, and I learned a little bit about compounding companies and things of that nature. So what a compounding company does is a lot of people send all their ingredients to these compounding companies to create a pill or a supplement. And some of these companies are better than others in cleaning their vats and cleaning their mixing bowls, if you will. If you follow MMA at all, there's a fighter that keeps testing positive for illegal substances, and they finally determined that he was taking legal substances, but the mixing company, the compounding company, was actually using that vat for an illegal steroid, then not cleaning it well. So you had trace amounts of this illegal steroid in the legal product. So it's so key to find a good company that will do a good job.
Yeah. And so what you want to look for in a company is that they're connected with their farmer that's growing the hemp. And generally CBD, when you're working with CBD products, it should be coming from hemp, because if it's coming from cannabis, it's going to have some levels of THC in it.
Okay.
Unless they turn it into an isolate. But you're going to be looking at the hemp industry because there isn't, the THC is 0.03% or less in that plant. So it's easier to work with and extract the CBD from the hemp plant.
Gotcha.
In addition, you were mentioning about being connected with our laboratory facility and it not going to a third party. So we have in-house requirements and standards that we can make sure they're being met every day as the processing's happening. In addition, we're testing every step of the way. So when we're working with our hemp farmers we make sure they aren't using pesticides or any material that's going to add chemicals to someone's medicine. And then we're testing it. So once it comes from them, we're testing it to make sure it's clean. And then we're producing our product and testing it to make sure what we say is in it is in it. And we do another third testing once product is gone through and we have a batch.
And that's important to mention. I had the opportunity to tour one of your facilities yesterday, and I come from a military sales background, and I've been in military installations with their security and traceability, and I've worked with packaging companies in the food industry, so I understand tracing food all the way back. Like in the meat industry, every cow is tracked. So if something goes bad, you can track it all the way back. And I saw a similar process in your facility where every plant has a serial number and is tracked from birth to sale. So for lack of a better term, it is tracked.
Yeah, accountability.
Yeah, and that's, again, huge, because I think there is probably a perception in the marketplace that there's some guy in a basement making all this.
Right.
And that's
and
not
maybe
the
there
case.
is with some people online, so you have to be careful about that. Not all CBD products are created equal.
I think that's key to hit. Your facility, it was clean. We were cleaning our feet through everything. We had to wear jackets that were clean all the time, every day. Before we walked through, we weren't allowed to touch anything. Everybody had masks on. Everybody was following probably the strictest guidelines that I've seen. I've been in a lot of computer clean rooms and whatnot, and it was a very similar process. So kudos to you guys on that.
Thank you. And to take it a level past what you saw, our Trokie brand comes from, the founder is a doctor of pharmacology. And he created this product to help kids that were going through chemotherapy treatment.
Whoa.
And he's been a compounding pharmacist as well, is his background. And so you also want to look at who's creating this product and what is the research that is going into it to make it make sure that it's bioavailable for the body, that you're absorbing it, that you're getting your most bang for your buck when you're taking, let's say, 25 milligrams of CBD. How much of that are you actually absorbing?
Okay. Well, that's, I guess, a great question. If I take a capsule of 25 milligrams of CBD, how do I absorb that? Or do I do 25 in a Trokie under? And we'll talk about products here in a minute, but
Right.
you can do a lozenge, you can eat a pill, you can
Yeah.
rub it on in a cream.
So I'm not here to put any negative comments on other delivery methods.
Okay.
Everyone's unique and works with a person fit for their lifestyle and what's
Okay.
going to work for them. So I'll first talk about the capsules because you mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of research goes into a capsule because you could just put CBD isolate, which is the 99.9% purity of just the CBD product, making sure you don't have any other compounds in it.
Okay.
You could take that, but they have found in research that you need some type of fat to help absorb that.
Okay.
So in our products, we're putting in a medium chain triglyceride, like coconut oil, to help in the absorption when it does go into your stomach. So the process is you're swallowing it, it's going into your stomach, and there's a lot of variabilities there with people in terms of hydrochloric acid, what meal you ate, how fat was the meal, the protein level, in terms of how quickly you're going to absorb that. After that phase, it's going to be going through the first pass metabolism of your liver. So there's lots of variables there too, with phase 1 of your detoxification with your liver, and then phase 2, and enzymes needed to be able to absorb that. So most capsules, you're only going to be absorbing, the research shows 4 to 8% of that. Now in our capsule, we're working with nanotechnology, which is making the molecule smaller and
Okay.
more easily to absorb. So you're going to be starting that absorption quicker than other capsules.
Interesting.
Now, what's the number one delivery system that I've seen in my research and being in this market for 4+ years is the Trokie, which is a buccal absorption. And that's a new term for a lot of people, but most of us have heard of the term sublingual. And sublingual is under the tongue. So what's different about buccal is it goes under the upper lip. And that is so unique because it doesn't have to go through your stomach, and it also doesn't have to go through the first pass metabolism of the liver. And the beauty in that is you're feeling the effects quicker. So let's say you have a headache coming on.
Okay.
You aren't going to have to wait 1 to 3 hours to start getting relief from that headache. People will start to feel relief in 15 to 30 minutes because it's absorbing right into their membranes, through their mucosal membranes into their bloodstream.
And that's different in the upper gum line to under your tongue?
Yeah, so the difference is if you put it under your tongue, you have more saliva there. And where does saliva go?
Well, you swallow it.
You swallow it. So
Yeah.
you're really turning it into an edible, and it has to go through your stomach. So we're trying to avoid that delivery method and get it right into your bloodstream so people have consistency, they have longer duration of relief, and they can feel it quicker.
Okay. Well, I had a couple of questions. I put out to my audience I was going to be speaking to CBD people. And a couple of the questions, Lexus asked me, is it habit forming?
Meaning, are you getting addictive to it? I'm
Right.
guessing is what she's leaning at.
Daily use, does it
Right.
become...
It is not addictive. And there's no research showing that any of that someone can become addictive to it.
Okay.
What people will notice, though, which could be addictive, is they start feeling better. Their mood's better. They have less pain because the inflammation is down. Maybe they're thinking clearer because of the neuroprotective part of it. And so on that means if you want it, that feeling daily, maybe it could become addictive on that state. But addiction has to do if you stop it, if you have withdrawals, and you wouldn't have any withdrawals.
Okay. Well, I'm going to look at my phone real quick because I had a couple of other questions that folks had asked.
Okay.
So bear with me here for just a second. Is it okay to operate motor vehicles under, I don't want to say under the influence because that doesn't...
Because it's not altering your brain state, so there is no influence. But yes, you can work, you can function just normally as you would as drinking water. So you can go to work, you can drive, you can go about your daily life without any alterations in your mental state other than mood enhancement.
Okay. And for the people out there that are drug tested, does CBD show up in a drug test?
That's a great question. None of our products will show up in a drug test when they're testing for THC.
Okay.
So in drug tests, none of our products will. When you're taking full spectrum CBD products, then I wouldn't be doing that if you're getting drug tested, because there could be minute dose amounts of THC in full spectrum oils.
That's important. Yeah. Great. Another question, any long-term side effects of daily use of CBD? CBD oil is the question.
The only side effect I'd like to make a note of for people taking blood pressure medication, it's important when you start a CBD regimen to start small, to monitor your blood pressure, and because you could be double medicating. CBD does help regulate blood pressure, but if you're already taking a medication on top of that, you just need to be cognizant of that. The beauty is you could start to work with your medical doctor in lowering your dose if you see your blood pressure becoming more balanced.
Well, and that's topical now. In the news, all these recalls on blood pressure medicine causing cancer. Great.
Yeah. Right.
Spot on.
And you had also mentioned if you can take CBD like you would a Tylenol or Advil. And I like to see CBD is taking over the market as a replacement for Tylenol and for Advil, because we know of the damaging effects that those NSAIDs can have. Well, NSAIDs is ibuprofen, and then Tylenol can have on your liver and your kidneys is detrimental. They're only good for short-term durations of taking. They aren't a long-term solution. So CBD is a great replacement to that. And that's what I have in my medicine cabinet now instead of any of those others.
Well, you're slowly convincing me to do the same. I'd love to clear out my medicine cabinet. I had a question from Larry. Larry asked, how do you go about extracting? So I'm guessing Larry knows a little bit about the CBD already. So he was asking, what are your extraction methods for getting CBD?
That's a great question. There's many extraction methods out there, and we're using state-of-the-art technology. I can't go into all the details of our extraction process, but we are using a CO2 extractor, and then we're refining the cannabinoids down to the cannabidiol into an isolate form.
Okay. And
it's a very clean system.
I guess, can you give me a visual representation of what isolate is?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when you are starting to, let's start with the hemp plant.
Okay.
So it has on it flower and leaves, and they're using those products that are more concentrated with CBD, cannabidiol.
Okay.
And the next step of how you start to process that to extract the CBD is very important. And looking for the cleanest way so there aren't solvents that are left in it and from some extractors that you have to be careful of.
Okay.
You don't want to be taking a solvent that could be carcinogenic, and you're trying to avoid that.
Right.
So it's important to know how someone's processing and how clean their processing system is.
Okay.
And your question
The
again.
question was, how do you extract a CBD? First
Right,
of all,
okay,
what
so
is
yeah,
isolate? And then
yeah,
second,
that's right.
how do you get it?
That's right. So you have the flower and the leaves, and in our system, we're putting it into a CO2 extraction where we can pull out and isolate the CBD cannabinoid.
Okay. And we won't get into all the science of the CO2.
There's several steps along the way. So you get it down to an oil that's not as concentrated, and then to get to the isolate stage, you have to go through a few different phases to get it down to 99.9%. And it turns into a powder.
Oh, okay.
When you get it down. So an isolate is a powder.
And we can, another time we can go into the details of that. Maybe that's a whole nother podcast where we just talk about what I saw yesterday and how it goes from, like you said, the first stage to the second. Science, for lack of a better term, is pretty incredible in what you guys are doing, at least by my untrained eye.
Yeah, it does take a scientist.
It was pretty incredible, and some pretty smart people and doctors walking around and checking everything off, and it was absolutely mind-boggling to see. So all over the news here lately has been the new farm bill. that was just signed. How does that affect the CBD marketplace, I guess, and what are you guys specifically doing in the marketplace as it pertains to the Farm Bill, I guess?
Yes. So the Farm Bill Act that was just recently passed is very exciting. What we are doing is working directly with farmers that are certified. So, and that means they're working with their Department of Agriculture to get their certification. And what that also means is their Department of Agriculture is going out and testing their product all along the way to make sure they have a clean, viable hemp plant.
Okay.
And there are people that are growing in their backyard or who knows where that are not certified. And you have to be wary of when you're buying online, or you don't know who your company is and who you're buying from, where their hemp product is coming from.
So you're not Googling hemp and buying it whatever the lowest price on the market. You're saying you work with the same farmers all the time, and they're certified through the Department of Agriculture, so you know you're getting clean, healthy plants all the time.
Right.
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a great thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Again, the perception's out there that a layman like me, I go online and I can buy it for $2. You know, why wouldn't I buy that?
Yeah, because you get what you pay for.
Well.
So, you know, I can probably relate more with people in supplements because we're familiar with supplements.
Okay.
And so you can, I don't think I can name actual companies maybe on there, but there was a study done where they went to 6 different stores and took ginkgo biloba, for example, and checked each product. And most of the products didn't even have ginkgo biloba in it. They didn't have what they said. They had houseplant material in it and fillers. So because this is not an FDA regulated product, and there's pros and cons to that, you just have to take that, your initial step of finding out who you're buying from and who that company is and who's researching it and from that company and how's it being processed and where are they getting their plant hemp material from.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm feeling better about it all the time now. So, are we in a wild west of the CBD days right now, where everybody's making a land grab and just throwing junk out there? So it's important to do your homework, is what you're saying?
It is, yes, because it is the Wild West, and anything could be a go out there right now. And someone could just slap on CBD and it not even have CBD on it, and there's no one to tell them they can't do that. So at this point in the game, it is important that you do your due diligence and finding out where you're getting your product and how it's being produced.
Okay, fantastic.
And so, and to empower people, all it takes is a phone call to any company that you want to buy CBD from online or at the store.
Mm-hmm.
They all should have the 800 number available or a number to reach out to. If not, then I would already move on to another company. And you can reach out to that company and say, I would like to get your laboratory results for this batch.
Okay, and is that something they have to produce or just should produce?
Nope, they aren't required by law to produce that at all, but it's not a good company, and I wouldn't do business with them if they didn't want to
There you go.
divulge any of that information.
I think that's the right answer. So I've got, just as my mother said, you better take care of your body or it's going to get you later on. And I didn't listen completely. I've broken my tailbone 3 times. I've torn my L5-S1. I've crunched my neck in a couple of surfing accidents, and so on and so forth. So I got a lot of ailments in aches and pains. Do you work with people in a medical setting and kind of diagnose and help? Do you have experience with that?
I do. I can't call it a medical setting. We aren't in a hospital. We do work with the pharmaceutical doctor I talked about, Dr. Kent, who's the founder.
Okay.
And the clinic I have worked in for 3+ years, our clientele is focused on receiving the medicinal benefits of cannabis or cannabis products.
Okay.
And most of our clientele is coming in not wanting to get high. They just want to get relief, whether it's from MS, their bladder spasticity, or it's from their Parkinson's, overdosing too much on opioids for their Parkinson's pain. I'd say our number one is chronic pain. So most people are coming in with a pain level in the range of 5 to 10. And they live with it day to day. And the opioids aren't working for them anymore. They want to wean off the opioids in a smooth, clean process instead of cutting cold turkey. We've also worked with a lot of cancer patients or that want to fight their cancer with just cannabis, or cancer patients that are going through chemotherapy and want to help with those side effects. And I've seen across the board it's helped with all of those ailments.
Wow.
And I would say with anyone that's new to this environment of working with cannabinoids, to start with the CBD in the daytime and start with the THC product in the evening. That way, you're still getting the benefits of what THC has to offer, but you don't have to feel high during the day. It's gonna give you a good night's sleep. You'll sleep through any of those psychoactive effects. If the CBD in the daytime isn't working to get whatever your goal is, if it's pain relief, we'll focus on that. Most people's issue is pain. If it's not giving you the pain relief in the daytime, then we start to introduce just a little THC. Our Trokie has a beautiful ratio of a 9-to-1, which is 9 milligrams of CBD and 1 milligram THC per dose.
Okay.
There's 10 doses total. And with that, people can still function in the daytime. They aren't feeling high or weird. A lot of side effects of taking THC is feeling dizzy, off balance. They aren't feeling that, but they're getting just a little bit of THC that sometimes helps people with pain relief.
So for clarification with the Trokie, to make sure I understand this, you have products that are 100% CBD, and then you have some that are a mixture of CBD with THC.
That's correct, and those have to be purchased at a dispensary.
All right. So
with the THC.
With the THC, right. Now, I've also heard I've watched people talk about edibles or absorbing and saying, okay, one time I ate a gummy and I couldn't get off the couch, and then the next time I ate one and I didn't feel anything, or I cut it in half and nothing happened. So I guess the dosage, again, we're in the Wild West here, so it's important to make sure you're dealing with a reputable company that knows what they're doing.
Right. And some of that variability with edibles has to do with going through the stomach and the first pass metabolism of the liver.
Okay.
So what the Trokie lozenge placed under your upper lip helps eliminate is that variability.
Okay.
The Trokie lozenge brings on consistency because it's not going through the digestive tract and the first pass metabolism of the liver.
I like it. So we've talked through a lot of different subjects here. Do you have a favorite story of someone you've worked with? Because I always relate to people with my podcasts and why I've started them, and tell the story of my father and do other things. Do you have stories that maybe you could share?
I do. I have been working in this field in this clinic for the 3+ years. I have hundreds of stories, but there's a few that are special to me that I'd like to share.
I'd love to hear one.
One is with the pure CBD Trokie lozenge.
Okay.
A gentleman in Texas had prostate cancer.
Okay.
And he reached out to our clinic to help with anxiety. So I started to help him with dosing, and he was getting a little relief with his anxiety. But he was thinking of quitting after the first month. And he had a month's supply. I said, just stick with it a month, which brings up another topic please ask me about.
Okay.
So he stuck with it the month, and at the end of the month, he had his PSA markers checked, which are the markers for checking for prostate cancer.
Right.
And they had dropped in half in just 1 month. So he was very excited about this. So we got another month's supply. At the end of the next month, his markers had dropped even more. And by the end of the third month, his markers were normal. He had a biopsy. They did ultrasound. He had no more.
On 100% CBD product.
Yep. And he was only taking, the beautiful thing of this story is he was only doing 50 milligrams a day. I believe because that delivery system under the upper lip, the buccal absorption, is so effective, and the bioavailability of what your body can absorb is so high that it makes it really effective. So with 50 milligrams a day, buccal delivery, he had no more cancer in 3 months.
And you don't think it's a coincidence that he just happened to be taking that and nothing?
He changed. He did no medical treatments. He didn't change his diet. That was the only thing he had changed.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so it was a very exciting story. And one of the more extreme stories was someone with stage 4 breast cancer that was sent home for hospice. Now, she did more of a regimen with suppositories and troches.
Cool. You just introduced another application. You can take this in suppository form?
You can, yes. And that is an excellent delivery system as well, too, because it's not going through the stomach and first pass metabolism of the liver as well. Now,
Interesting.
some people aren't comfortable with that. I say if you have any kind of ailment that's bringing you down, get comfortable with it. Because if there's something that's going to help you and help heal your body, and talking about healing the body, I bring up a good topic that I want to discuss.
Yeah.
So what cannabinoids are doing is turning on receptors in your body. They're called endocannabinoid receptors. It's a big word. Can you say it?
Probably not.
Endocannabinoid receptors.
No, I'm not even going to try.
What's amazing is they're everywhere in our body. They're in our tissues, they're in our bone, they're in our gut, they're in our brain.
Okay.
And so why cannabis and cannabinoids have such far-reaching benefit is because you're turning on these receptors. And what these receptors want to do in the body is create homeostasis. So when you're turning on these receptors, they want to balance out the body and bring it to health. So if you have inflammation in your shoulder, they're going to help send messengers there. If you have cancer somewhere in your body, it's going to be helping turn on the healing mechanism to start killing the cancer cells.
That's a pretty bold claim.
It is, the endocannabinoid receptors is where research needs to be taking more of a look at and seeing what's going on there, because it's amazing what they can do.
I love it. Mm-hmm. That's great stuff. Well, Doria, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll get this out soon. And the information, I put a few hashtags of CBD and oil, and the response was overwhelming. So everybody wants to know, everybody wants to learn. Talking to people that you can trust, and I do trust you, I think is hugely important, because there's so much misinformation out there.
There is.
And you got just everybody telling you different things. I've heard homeostasis. We just talked about that. Probably from people I wouldn't trust to wash my car, but they're saying, "Oh, you got to achieve homeostasis." Do you even know what that is? You know what I'm saying? So to hear it from you with a medical background and working in clinics and working with people, you have the story. And I hate to turn this into a commercial, but it feels like it should be said. So thank you for that.
All right. Thank you.